And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul Demain. Many of the stories you'd hear can be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. The chairman of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe says reservation needs more police officers. Ron His Horse's Thunder was among those speaking last week at a hearing chaired by Senator Byron Dorgan of North Dakota on the need for law enforcement. His Horse's Thunder said people on the reservation felt safe when the number of police officers was increased from 8 to 37, but that federal program has ended. The tribal chairman said reservation suicides have a direct correlation between the lack of law enforcement officers. He says he hopes a new law enforcement training facility will help. Dorgan, who chairs the Senate Indian Affairs Committee, says that drug traffickers target American Indian communities because of the lack of police officers. One of the leaders of a northern Arizona tribe has pled guilty to stealing nearly $300,000 in tribal funds. San Juan Southern Paiute Vice President Evelyn James also admitted last week to money laundering and making false statements. According to a federal indictment, the 50-year-old Tuba City resident wrote herself tribal checks totaling $300,000 while she was tribal president. She faces up to 25 years in federal prison on the charges. Sentencing was set for September 28th. Ward Churchill, the former Colorado professor fired after comparing some September 11th victims to a Nazi, testified last week that he wants his job back without special privileges, but warned more legal battles would ensue if the university retaliates against him upon his return. The University of Colorado is opposing Churchill's reinstatement request despite an April verdict in which jurors concluded he was wrongly fired for an essay in which he called World Trade Center victims little Eichmanns, a reference to a Nazi who helped orchestrate the Holocaust. The university maintains they fired Churchill for academic fraud. The university administration and some faculty don't want him back, and CU attorney Patrick O'Rourke said Churchill's relationship with the school would not be an amicable one if he's on campus again. Jurors awarded Churchill $1 in damages, but the lawsuit did not settle his job status. Activists who staged an alcohol blockade on the Pine Ridge Reservation north of White Clay, Nebraska last week say they're encouraged by the results. Dwayne Martin with the Conte Tenza Strong Heart Civil Rights Movement says the cooperation among activists and tribal police was inspiring during the third year of the blockade. During the first year, organizers failed to reach an agreement with law enforcement and several were ticketed. The group spent several hours last week checking vehicles coming across the Nebraska-South Dakota line from White Clay, which is home to several outlets that sell beer to residents of the Dry Reservation. Martin says activists were encouraged by the many drivers who were stopped, and some even said the blockade should be a weekly event. Washington State and Colville Confederated Tribes have reached an agreement on a cigarette compact. Under the agreement, the tribe will impose its own cigarette tax in lieu of state and local taxes. The Washington State Department of Revenue said in a statement that the tribal tax will equal to 100% of the combined state and local taxes on cigarettes, or $2.44 per pack. The state will not impose taxes on non-Indians buying from tribal smoke shops in exchange for the tribal administering and enforcing the agreement. A coalition of tribes plan to reopen an addiction treatment center in Sheridan, Wyoming. The Montana-Wyoming Tribal Leaders Council says the Intertribal Wellness Center will offer health counseling. Organizers say treatment programs could incorporate traditional ceremonies such as sweats and vision quests for spiritual development. The council says it will raise $100,000 for repairs to open the treatment facility at the former Thunder Child Treatment Center. Thunder Child was a residential drug and alcohol addiction treatment center that opened in 1994. It has stood vacant since the year 2006. At the base of the Willamette Falls, Bobby Begay plunged face down beneath the surface. Hooking his legs to a rock outcropping, Begay submerged himself for about a solid 10 seconds as he felt around underwater nooks and crannies last week. Finally, he popped out of the water with a gasp. In his right hand, he clutched a wildly squirming lamprey he deposited into a nearby net. Begay, a 40-year-old member of the Yakama Nation who lives at Salilo Village along the Columbian River near the Dalles, Oregon, said he has fished for lamprey as long as he can remember. These days, tribes from throughout the Columbia Basin converge at Willamette Falls to carry on that tribal tradition. Several traveled hundreds of miles to catch lamprey. One tribal elder waiting to meet Begay at the Oregon City boat ramp described the preparation simply: gut it, cut off the head, cut off the tail, and cook it over an open fire. Cook it until it's burnt, then cook them another 20 minutes, he said. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast and you for joining with us again. You have a great day.